Welcome back to First Things First. It's time for Say What? Yesterday, the Warriors took a 3-1 lead on the Pelicans. Golden State started off the game strong, mainly due to head coach Steve Kerr tweaking the starting lineup and going with the Hampton 5 group. Here's what he had to say about that group after the game.
I still am amused that we just matter-of-factly call them the Hamptons 5. I know that's Tim. Yeah, well, Tim Kawakami deserves all the credit then. I just feel strange, like, as a coach saying, well, the Hamptons 5 played really well tonight. Like, I can't say that, but you can.
You know, Steve Kerr's also had some pretty good post-game press conferences. He enjoys the time up there. He's very honest and casual and open and relaxed. And there, your Hamptons 5 guys.
Tim is a very good journalist. He covered me in Philadelphia when I came into the league. You know, he's the one that came up with the Hampton 5 for them. It's cute. The irony to it, he was meeting with the Celtics, right? In the Hamptons.
Yeah.
But Golden State
got it.
Tell him, explain why.
Also, listen, the four guys who are in the starting lineup, Steph, Clay, Draymond, Iggy, are the four guys who went to the Hamptons to recruit KD. And you mentioned...
Who was there meeting with your people.
Right, who was there meeting with the Celtics. And if you believe the legend of this, the Celtics laid out to KD all the different ways they could make his basketball life easier. You're getting the toughest shots imaginable in Oklahoma City. With our coaching, with our spacing, you're going to get easier shots. And so that really impacted him. And then when Golden State walks in the room, he's like, well, if that's true with Boston, how's this going to be true with these guys? And he ended up, of course, signing with Golden State, and the Hamptons 5 was born. But I couldn't believe they'd never started before. First game in 2 years that 5-man unit has ever started. I thought they would have started prior to that. Not the case.
All right, learn something new every day. Or in my case, every 3 minutes.
Yes.
Time for some stories.
Forget it 6 minutes later, so you get to just keep learning it again and again.
Hilarious you are. You're quite the jokester. Time for some stories to start your morning. All right, Dez Bryant is still looking for a team after being released from the Dallas Cowboys a few weeks ago. It was reported last week that some teams won't even bring Dez in for the minimum, something his former teammate Cole Beasley isn't putting a lot of stock into. CC, should a contending team take a chance on Dez Bryant?
One thing Cole Beasley said was a team not signing Dez would be dumb. Well, I'm just telling you, with teams watching NFL film, they're wondering how much football Dez Bryant can learn, being the new playbook, meaning that he didn't do a lot of different things from a variety standpoint in Dallas. So how high is his football IQ, I'm sure is a concern for other teams.
And listen, Cole Beasley also was trying to support his guy, but he complimented Dez in a odd way, in a way that I don't know if teams will view as a compliment. He said, I've never seen him work this hard. I've never seen him work on his route running this much. I think a lot of people would say, well, why just now is that coming into play, even though Cole was trying to help him out? I keep throwing teams out at you, CC. Green Bay, would they be a fit? You knock it down. Jacksonville, you knock it down. Give me, because you believe Dez going to play, and you believe he can still help the team. Give me a team that you think would be the perfect fit for him.
San Francisco. They don't have a number one guy. They don't have a big physical X receiver. And I believe in Kyle Shanahan. I believe him and Jimmy Garoppolo would build a team up with Dez. Jimmy's new enough, and Dez is not dominant enough that in that franchise with John Lynch running it, I believe that would be a good fit. Also, watch out for Baltimore. They already offered him a contract. They could come back in later on.
All right, to the NBA. Last night, James Harden and Chris Paul combined for 51 points to give the Rockets a 3-1 series lead over the Utah Jazz. Houston can close out the series on Tuesday. Nick, how impressive was Houston last night?
They were very impressive this whole weekend, last night and Friday. I thought they had to win both of these games. Very hard to ask a team to go on the road and win 2 games, but you can't win 65 games and have the second-round series come down to a best-of-3.
Yeah.
Just can't do it, and that's what they would have been in if they had just split this. And now they're in a position where, guess what? Houston this postseason is 7-2. Golden State, who we're all falling all over ourselves about how they're playing, they're 7-2. Both of the 2 best teams in basketball during the regular season have the 2 best records in the playoffs, and they're playing the way they should.
Nick, what would be the record with Capella, Harden, and Chris Paul at this point in the season?
48-4. 48-4.
Let it sink in. All right, because I believe that will be part of the storyline as they move forward. But their ability to play defense, that's why they're having a special season. I believe that it ends with the championship. 92 points Friday night. Last night, 87 points. You're going to win a lot of NBA games only giving up that many points.
Shout out to Clint Capella. Mr. Easy Job doing a hell of a job.
said KD. Speaking of which, we do have the Warriors. They started their death lineup yesterday, 4 All-Stars plus Iggy, Andre Iguodala. KD had 38 points, and the Warriors dominated the Pelicans to take a 3-1 series lead. Nick, how scary are the Warriors with the so-called death lineup?
Death lineup, Death Star lineup, Hamptons 5, whatever you want to call it.
Wait, is it Death or Death Star?
Well, listen, the Death lineup was before they got KD. Once they added KD, they started calling it the Death Star. Some people call it the Hamptons 5. I just call it the bust you in your mouth lineup.
Okay.
Like they're going to come out. They're going to definitely be a triple plus offensively. And with Draymond playing the way he's played this postseason, they are going to be locked down defensively. And you just got to hold on for dear life. That's what New Orleans couldn't do yesterday. They couldn't hold on for dear life. They lost that game 6 minutes into it.
They have the ability to be able to spread the court. And with this lineup, you think you have 5 shooters in there, but you basically just have 3 shooters. They're Clay, Steph, and KD are taking most of shots. Iggy and Draymond, only if you leave them wide open. So they're distributors of the basketball. So not only can they switch defensively 1 through 5, but they got 2 guys who really don't care about scoring. You would think, man, they only got 1 basketball. It's not enough. But when they put this lineup in, they defer to the others so they're able to get their shots. That's why it works for them.
And when you go into one of these games, you have to hope that 2 of probably the 2 greatest shooters ever in Steph and Clay, and 1 of the greatest scorers ever, that triumvirate, when you add KD to it, that 2 of them are off that night. Because if 1 of them's off, guess what? They still have more scoring than almost any team in the league. If if all 3 are on, good night, good luck, you're finished.
Well, that's why it's important for your bench, because when they do go to the bench, you can start to see the letdown. So your bench, that's why it becomes important to have a strong bench.
Right. When Quinn Cook or Nick Young are out there, you have to feast if you're going to have a chance.
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things the Cavs couldn't do in the last 3 times they played them. One time they got over the hump. Draymond gets suspended, but that bench scoring hurt them.
All right, football season doesn't start till September, but the Steelers are making a whole bunch of news. The Steelers, wow, the post-draft euphoria has been euphoric for all the Steelers except one. Pittsburgh drafted quarterback Mason Rudolph in the 3rd round of this year's draft. Quarterback Ben Roethlisberger, who couldn't be less threatened by Rudolph, is acting the opposite. Last week he said, hey, Rudolph's the guy, he won't be for a while. Turns out Roethlisberger wasn't a fan of the Steelers drafting a quarterback at all.
I was surprised when they took a quarterback because I thought that maybe in the 3rd round, you can get some really good football players that can help this team now. And nothing against Mason. I think he's a great football player. I don't know him personally, but I'm sure he's a great kid. I just don't know how, packing up or being the 3rd round, who knows where he's going to fall in the depth chart, but helps us win now. But, that's not my decision to make. That's on the coaches and the GM and owner and those kind of things. So if they feel like he can help our team, so be it. But I was a little surprised.
Will you feel any extra or added responsibility to take him under your wing? Do you think you'll have to do that?
Well, I don't think I'll need to now. He said that he doesn't need me. So if he asks me a question, I might have to just point to the playbook,
if I was Ben, I'd probably say the same thing. He's a competitor. Obviously he's a lot of confidence in himself like I do. And, yeah, he's going to be a future Hall of Famer, and I would expect him to say that.
What's the point in Ben Roethlisberger doing this? Well, if he asks me a question, I'll just point to the play, but he said he doesn't need me. First of all, that's not what he said. Second of all, it just seems like such an aggressive way to start a relationship with someone that you are going to be sharing film room with, time, in the locker room with. CC, does Roethlisberger, though, have a point about the Steelers drafting Mason Rudolph?
No, he's got no point.
None.
He's not in control of who's going to draft the players. The Pittsburgh Steelers have done this for a long time and have been one of the most successful, if not the most successful, as far as drafting. Look at all their Hall of Famers. You tell me how many they got off another team. Most of those were drafted through their system, through their scouting system. They have been one of the most patient franchises, one of the most supporting franchise in the history that this game has seen. So Ben is wrong in doing this, all right, because that's one of the great legacies that's in the National Football League as far as the older players mentoring younger guys and showing them the way. I remember in 1998, we drafted Randy Moss. I wasn't happy about it. Jake Reed wasn't happy. We were an NFL combined tandem, led the NFL 3 years in a row, had a 1,000-yard season, and we draft Randy Moss. So like, what the heck we draft him for? Hey, because eventually he was going to be taken over to be the superstar that he went on to become. But we didn't treat him that way. And the next year, After Randall Cunningham was MVP of the league, we drafted Dante Culpepper.
Think about that just real quick. I want to remind the audience of what it was. The 98 Vikings, 15-1. You guys won every game. You scored at least 30, right? There was
every game that we didn't score 30, we won. 2 games we didn't, Tampa Bay and Atlanta.
Right. The only 2 losses was because they didn't get to 30 points, meaning they needed some help on defense. There wasn't a game all year where it's like, guys, the offense wasn't in. Defense can step up. When the Vikings go to the first round, Javon Curse, who helped a team as a rookie make the Super Bowl in the Tennessee Oilers, the Tennessee Titans at the time.
Yes.
Javon Curse was amazing. I think he had 18.5 sacks his rookie year. He's on the board. He's what you guys need. Your quarterback just won league MVP, and they draft Dante Culpepper, a project out of Central Florida, right?
Yes.
The guy who's not.
And we have Brad Johnson on the roster who Randall Cunningham took his spot because of injury.
And so when that happened, you're not happy privately. You're upset. You're nearing the end of your career. You've never been to a Super Bowl. You're trying to get there. What did you do publicly? And what did you do with Dante?
That weekend, we sat down with Dante and let him know that the team had let us know that it was going to be a year where he was going to be observing everything. But we were going to push him in practice. I would even do a lot of the scout team with him and Randy Moss so we would keep him engaged and let him know he was the future of the franchise. Anything he needed in Minneapolis in that locker room, we were going to provide it for him to be able to help him out, even though he was going to be sitting for a whole year.
And I understand Dante's career ended up taking a turn after an injury he wouldn't like, but he ended up winning an MVP as a Minnesota Viking. And it was good. The Vikings had a plan. When you retired as the greatest offensive player in my mind in the history of the franchise, guess what? They were okay. They had Randy and Dante, who they had drafted while you were there, so the franchise could keep moving forward. So that's why the Steelers do this. But I understand Ben privately being frustrated. I understand Ben saying, man, we need other pieces. We don't need to be trading away Dez Bryant. We need to be keeping him and adding pieces. I get that privately. What I don't get and what I cannot excuse is him lying about what Mason Rudolph said. Mason Rudolph did not say he doesn't need Ben Roethlisberger. Mason Rudolph said exactly what you would like him to say as a rookie. Oh, it's not Ben's job. I'm here to learn. I'm just here to do my job. And for Ben to go on a very popular radio show in town where he has a weekly hit on and people tune in to hear him and poison the well against this kid is so out of line. It would be out of line in any workforce, in any environment, and it's unnecessary. And to do that, and in addition to it, you're lying. You are lying about what the kid said. Maybe even if the kid had said something bad, I wouldn't think you should say that.
It's not out of line, though, if you know who the person is. Like if Antonio Brown had said this about Martavius when they drafted him, if Antonio had said this about Juju Schuster last year when they drafted him, the way Martavius said about Juju that they shouldn't draft him, I would be shocked. Because I'd be like, that person's not that way. I know Antonio. Antonio, this is the thing. Antonio gets a bad hit for his image. He's mentoring a guy on the Browns. The guy that potentially your division rival, I mean, in Cleveland, he's mentoring him, and Ben doesn't want to mentor someone that Kevin Colbert, the general manager, selected and believe he's got a future. If you're drafted in the 3rd round by the Pittsburgh Steelers, they think you have a future in the league.
So you're not surprised hearing this from Ben, though? You were saying you'd be surprised
with
Antonio.
This is who he is. That's the way he's always been. He's petty. He's always about Ben. He's always about his money. When he gets injured, they ask him after the game, oh, Ben, how long you think? Man, the doctor said 4 to 6 weeks. Typically, a guy would be like, hey, listen, I don't know what the doctor said. I'm going to get back as soon as I can. We've been following Ben a long time. I've seen this behavior before, so I'm not shocked.
But look at the year he's coming off of, too, where he took great liberties to throw various coaches under the bus, to place blame on everyone but him, on choices that were made at the goal line, on whether he was going to keep playing or not. I don't know if I still have it in me yet. Well, what do you think the Steelers are supposed to think? We want to have a backup plan in place, regardless of what our quarterback says, because who knows what our quarterback is saying, and then they went out and did that.
And when the franchise has supported you off the field,
good Lord,
through one very reckless decision in the motorcycle incident, and then some really horrifying accusations, when they've stood by you throughout, you owe something to the Pittsburgh Steelers, which is to recognize, you know what, maybe I am going to play another 4 years. But hopefully when I'm done, they've got I can hand the baton to this kid who some people thought could have been a first-round pick. The Steelers have done everything a franchise could ever do for a quarterback.
Let me tell you what Pittsburgh hadn't done. When they weren't happy with Ben, those 2 situations, They didn't say anything publicly. When Ben has been out of shape and Ben has been doing other things off the field that you wouldn't be proud about, you know, Pittsburgh, they didn't say anything. People like myself been covering the league. We know more about Ben than Pittsburgh's ever let out. You know, but we're not going to say anything because we owe it to the game to kind of look after the players. But Ben needs to be careful right here in not mentoring this younger player.
All right, we got to take a break. Coming up, is it still even possible to criticize LeBron James for anything? One last segment. It'll be a good one. It's next. It's First Things First.
Some things should never change, like the Chris Cole